So I'm literally a genius because I recorded the whole video and didn't realize that I didn't have my microphone on. So let's do this again. Okay, and everything is following around me. Okay, so this map. Okay, quick note. Actually, no quick notes. This is just a game analysis. Okay, this map. Uh, Class is extremely important. I've seen this game once, so I kind of know what's going to happen. So I can foreshadow some things. Glass Colony consumes a lot of glass. 8 silicon tiles on the map means that silicon is a little bit tricky. They are also a bit far away from most resources, for most steel, I want to say, but they actually aren't far away. And silicon is important. Anyway, this found, I think, is the best found on the map. It's a scientific found. One thing that is that steel is really cheap. So, what you want to do here is you want to found it and go for food immediately. This is a decent found. It's similar in idea. I don't agree with exactly how it was placed. I think it should be placed one tile to the north so we can have two triangles easy to connect, because we're going to see it's not too hard to connect steel still. We're going to see this farm, which can never be a triangle. And that's a slight but annoying mistake that I will point out to for this scientist. This guy is just completely clueless about what he's doing. I'm going to ignore him. The problem with the scavenger here is that all of these carbon is not adjacent. So there is one way to solve this problem, which is to use core samples right here and connect and create a triangle of carbon. Of course, you kind of still want to take 2 carbons at first because carbon starts double the price, but then I would suggest that you do that and then make it when you have too much carbon, then you make a triangle of other production over here. This so far is very, very fine. So Vampirus took the best spot, but I don't think that steel was really a good choice at first. You kind of want to go straight into farms. It's not too big a deal, it seems. I'm a bit surprised. There's also a thing I don't like with this scavenger is that it came off first, whereas there are these juicy scientific farms with no awkward carbon problems. The scientist is slightly worse because aluminium is really far away. And silicon is fairly far away as well. Now, this carbon claim I don't agree with. It might seem fine, you need a lot of carbon, but once you're going to crash carbon down, you have 3 dead tiles essentially, as opposed to, well, trying to survive on 2 claims is maybe a little bit questionable, but I would much rather do the core sample play. I'll often try to survive honestly and use this claim for something useful, like commit entirely to a triangle of power, because the 2 tiles aren't just going to be that crucial. However, one important thing about power that I will say is that you're not going to pay all of your debt with power. So you still need to make money. Plus, it's pretty expensive. Food is on its way down. How are you going to get the money to upgrade? 2 power tiles is not something you can afford to do. And especially not the 2 aluminium tiles. Because you kind of... I think I would prefer, instead of having these 3 tiles here being used that way, I would prefer to get just 1 geothermal plant. Especially now that you committed to so much carbon. Just get that geo. Even without it, it would have been possible. 1 more water. And 2 reactors. And just make that money. Instead, this isn't terrible, but I think it's just so much better to get a geo. Now, this mutiny I don't agree with, not because it's a terrible mutiny, it's an okay mutiny, it's just 1 power per second, but power is expensive. But you could have gotten another claim for not too high a price, just another 2.5. And you're a scavenger, so claims are very important to you. You could have gotten a goon to protect your power, because your power at the moment is the best on the map. So you kind of want to take it. And defend it. You could have gone for core samples, but at this point, now that you committed, it's not that important. One of those 3 options, I think, is best. And now you are a little bit punished here with vampires taking your Winterbind. So what this thing I don't agree with from vampires, but it's not a huge deal, I think, because silicon is expensive. If you want to move to power, first of all, you don't want to do it with just 1 tile. You want to commit more to it, and you can't really commit to silicon unless you're going to take silicon tiles, in which case you don't have the claims for this. And this also seems like it's fine, right? So also this I don't agree with. This came off on HQ2, I think, so this was probably preparing for chems, but you can see that chems are about as good as glass at the moment. But there's no pressure on chem, whereas there is a huge pressure on glass, and everyone still needs to upgrade, and the only person who doesn't care about glass is not going to upgrade anyway, so this is terrible, but that's from the robot friend, unfortunately. Yeah, so this I don't really agree with. It's not a terrible play, but I think it's inferior to just trying to move into glass. Or frankly, committing to full double triangle of food and reactors. Or frankly, committing to power, just get the Winterbinds. Use this carbon to build Winterbinds. Or get another steel mill and get the Jeff Hamill. So Cheesecake is now struggling, and this decision is not good for the exactly same reasons as I said for vampires. This claim is sad. You kind of want to have a triangle. Really, you really want to have a triangle instead of having this. Excuse me, I'm really sleepy today. I'm having a very strange schedule these days. Schedule, as they say in Britland. And this claim for 20k, we're going to see why this play is wrong in a while. Like, when I was recording the first video, I was a bit suspicious of this, but I didn't really criticize it. But there's a big problem with going to a patent lab here. Patents are expensive.
The patent lab is constructed.
And you really just want, you only need 10,000 in cash to push to an upgrade. So instead of committing to this teleportation, which is a good patent, you could have gotten an upgrade and gotten more claims and fixed your territory. You would have gotten rid of this useless tile. You would have maybe committed to more power, which is really good at the moment. You could have maybe transitioned aluminium, of which you have more than you need at this point, into, I don't know, food. For instance, could have claimed more water, could have taken silicon finally. Silicon is becoming good. Glass is becoming insanely good. At 150, instead you're committing to teleportation, which is decent. It would let you make good use of these 2 tiles. But that's not it, really. It would save you a little bit in fuel from shipping carbon. That's a bit about it. And there's no other patent that I can think of that is particularly good to you except for maybe perpetual motion, which I don't think you're going to take, as far as I remember. Superconductor is not very useful to you because you don't actually have any power adjacent to your base. Now, vampires. Actually, one more patent that I can think of is financial instruments, because both Secret Story and vampires are in a lot of debt. But carbon scrubbing is something I absolutely disagree with, because you have a lot of carbon coming in. and you're not really using it for anything. You have carbon is worth $10. You have over 1,000 of it, so that's way more than you need for an upgrade and an off-world. And I don't think it's worth spending 80 cams at 150 price to do that. I strongly dislike this carbon scrubbing. So you're noticing that power is high and you're moving, unfortunately, into a solar panel over here, but silicon is really expensive, and this glass furnace, by the way, is almost losing money. It's just a dead tile. And now you can see that you committed to 2 patents instead of upgrading. You would have been HQ level 4 about 3 minutes ago at this point. Almost. Thinking Machines, by the way, was a good auction to take. It's a mistake for everyone else not to take it. Oknem, by the way, went for the good old 2 geothermal plants on HQ2, which put him way behind in upgrades, but because people generally ignored power for a while, and yeah, and because there are 2 scientists, the power did rise very high, so now this kind of delayed play allowed him to get back into the game. And I'll say that his strategy is decent. The problem with him is that he did not get teleportation. And so he's shipping glass, which is really good to pirate. And he's shipping cams, which are not as good to put pirates on, but they're still good enough. So you got the patents you wanted, it seems, which I don't think are that great of patents. Because by the time you're done with carbon scrubbing, suddenly power is dead, so I can understand why you moved out. But then you're buffing power, which I don't agree. So power is not very high, and already you are producing more than you need. You really need to make cash, though. You need to make cash, and you need to get that upgrade. So spending yet another 20 cams, that's 250 times 10, that's 2,500 away from your upgrade, and into something that's not going to give you any cash at all. Camshaft is just something you need to abuse.
A scientific HQ has been upgraded.
This is interestingly one of the one instincts they have. Like, if you're noticing that a shortage is coming, you just need to buy into it, and you need to check if anyone can do anything about it. And I wouldn't say that anyone can, because it takes Oknim a while to transport his cams to the base. Finally, we're going to see an upgrade, and you see that with 200 in silicon and almost 400 in glass, it should be fairly obvious what we're going to need to go for. Except the glass is not going to make you any money without silicon. So this one, glass kiln is a big mistake, I think. Makes no sense. Fixing this territory is important, but yes, you do need more water, but it's really about silicon and glass at this point. It's a big mistake not to move into them.
I hate those filthy bandits.
Good pyros, by the way. By vampires. I would actually consider stealing from vampires at this point. I'd be, although Oknim has a lot more cash, so yeah, I would actually steal from Oknim. If you even use pirates, so you're sitting on your cooldowns and you're not really doing anything with them. Cams are not terrible still, but you just really need to push to the upgrade, which is insanely expensive, primarily due to glass, because you're already far behind the scientists. This is a superb optimization center that scientists should be regretting not taking. It's just so good. Meanwhile, Oknem just gets an off-world casually. And at this point, you have to realize, damn, I'm behind. Because both scientists are HQ5. One of them has an off-world starting out, but already has it. And you're still 1 HQ behind. And the reason for that is not because you had...
The engineers have advanced our production.
Because no one attacked you at all, I think, so far. And the only reason you're behind is simply because you were not making cash. This, by the way, is still not good. I don't. It needs to be food. So, well, actually, not food. At this moment, it needs to be refineries. Getting teleportation was not a terrible idea. I just don't agree with when it was done. And you can see that you can use this teleportation now to make these useless tiles that are making you about $50 per second, which you're not even really using because there's no reason to sell aluminium, and turn them into stuff that will be making you real money. So I wasn't looking, but I think Secret Sword was worth nothing, so this buyout is kind of good by Vampires. The problem with Vampires, though, is that you need to commit to an off-world. Good mutiny, though. Terrible mistake of Oknim not protecting his off-worlds. And instead he buys pirates that are stealing. I wonder if Oknim is a very old player who's coming back into the game, because they're stealing iron at the moment. I guess the idea is that he wants to steal steel, maybe? But there used to be, well, I thought silicon at first, but maybe it's steel. There was an ancient meta of placing pirates at the right next to the HQ of your opponent, and the idea behind that was because pirates work differently. They used to steal the entire cargo, the entire shipment, and so you wanted to punish your opponent by having him ship the resource and spend the fuel, and then shipping and then stealing it anyway. But it doesn't work that way nowadays. There's no reason to place pirates next to the HQ. You should place them as close to the building as you want to. And the only reason I think I can think of why you place pirates here is if you want to steal steel or silicon. But unfortunately, you're also stealing iron, which is not nearly as good. So now this is looking like decent territory for Cheesecake. Unfortunately, though, you're just very far behind. You don't have an off-world. Both scientists have an off-world. You don't have anything in terms of stock. You have some debt, but that's not a big deal. You don't have a lot of advanced buildings, and even the two optimization centers are not really very useful. You have to identify that silicon is just incredibly important, and so is glass, and it is much more valuable than power and than food. Having 3 optimizations before you have a bunch of okay, so this is how I like to optimize. This is something maybe not everyone's going to agree with me, but if there are very valuable resources on the market that you are capable of producing and are in fact producing, you want to have 2 levels of optimizations in each and every one of those particular specific very expensive resources before going into a 3rd level of optimization. And here I would definitely prefer to optimize glass and silicon, especially silicon, before optimizing food again. Even though food is the launch, but the problem is by auto-selling food and optimizing it to selling more, you're essentially making it better for your opponents who have off-worlds. And it's not that it's terrible to sell food, but it's kind of not good because you're making it easier for them. One you could make is bank on silicon. Another thing that I don't really like giving as advice to most players, except actually to any players really, because the only players that could make good use of that advice are players who I should never give advice to anyway, because they're just too good. But this was a game that was just simply screaming for a hacker array. I'm going to say that in most games it's too difficult to use the hacker array well that I will advise to as the optimal move. But in this game, scientists were making glass. They did not make any raw silicon. The robot was a non-factor. He had this one tile eventually, but he was also a subsidiary, which means he was just auto-selling this immediately. So getting a hack array and hacking silicon and optimizing silicon. Just don't even care about glass. Just draw silicon. Should give you given you a lot of money. Even though again there is the contra argument that it's best to hack something that is low in price as opposed to being the probably one of the most insane prices of silicon I've ever seen. And this is the true price, mind you, more or less. Well, yeah, at this point, once you're out of the game, this is the true price. But yeah, basically, I feel like you shot yourself in the foot way too much with honestly nothing but mismanaging your claims and not making money when you need to make money. So that's one thing. The other thing was the Paint Lab play, which felt directionless and a bit like planless. It just felt like the wrong plan, essentially, as opposed to just getting upgrades and getting money, because the map was awkward enough with glass that you could have afforded to not care about advanced buildings too early. In most games, actually, it's probably not best to start moving into advanced buildings on HQ level 3. And I would say that this definitely was a game where it was a mistake to move into advanced buildings on HQ level 3. I would say that those are the two big mistakes. One thing I also want to point out about Ocnim is that the buy that he did here is very questionable. I mean, we don't get to see how the game actually ended, but I'm going to take a not entirely a wild guess that Vampires just made a little bit more money and bought him out in spite of having just one offload compared to the two that he had. Because this was pretty expensive. Probably at least 500k. And there was no way that Cheesecake would have pulled back into this game and came after Ocnim, so Ocnim had to destroy Vampires, essentially, because this boost in stock is really just not important. But then again, the sub is going to make some money, but I don't think the game's going to last long enough, especially with these undefended offworlds. I think he was just allowing to constantly be abused by Vampires. That's it in short, and I'm actually losing my voice apparently. So thank you for watching. I hope this can be useful, and I hope this wasn't too harsh. So yeah.